Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. So yesterday, I was going through the internet, right? And I came across a show from Michael Jordan's Fans Are the Best. And it's about a 3.5 hour show. And during this show, you had a bunch of different personalities talking basketball, right? Debating basketball. And after about the hour mark, Gilbert Arenas shows up, right? He shows up. And various people are there. Sports and fitness rants there. They're all there. Then they now start going. Scap Attack is there as well. And they're all kind of going back and forth, arguing, debating, back and forth. So they then started to talk about LeBron's legacy, where LeBron should be ranked all time, and blah, 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 blah. Did LeBron take a shortcut here? Did he take a shortcut there? Which one of his championships are legitimate? Blah, blah, blah. Now, if you know anything from listening to Gilbert Arenas seems to spend a lot of time watching basketball, following basketball, researching basketball, right? And he always has this kind of behind-the-scenes information that the average person wouldn't have. So as they're going back and forth, they're talking about, LeBron's career, and they talk about his tenure in Miami. Then it gets to a very interesting part of the conversation, where usually what I've noticed is Gil will take a position, right? And the other people can have their position. But once the conversation kind of simmers down, the emotion simmers down, usually what happens is Gil now just starts to talk basketball. And then he will now start giving you information that you wouldn't otherwise know, right? And he will have this information because he's a former player. He's been in the league, knows people in the league. So he knows how the NBA works. You've been in the system, right? Most of us watching the show have not. So obviously you're going to have an insight. And then he gets to a part where he says something that I was unaware of. And it's something that I followed that series, where essentially he said the NBA wanted LeBron James to win his first championship or something. And it was already in the story, in the script. And basically what Gilbert Arenas was doing was he was explaining how championships are given to certain stars, and in this case was given to, and he was breaking it down in ways that I didn't even know. And I was like, wow, this is some pretty interesting information that's worth sharing with the audience. So I was like, we got to talk about this today and get a sense of what people are thinking. So what we want to do now is want to play exactly what Gilbert Arenas had to say. I want you guys to listen to every second of what he had to say, and I want to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to this here.
Oh, really?
But they also don't bring that up when they talk about his
Listen, LeBron's first championship was some bullshit. NBA gave him that. Because I played, I already knew what was going on. They had OKC somehow beat the Spurs, right? Spurs beat them 2 games, and all of a sudden, if you heard the media, you can go back and watch game 3. The Spurs is too old. They're too old to keep up with OKC, right? Because they wanted a young team going against LeBron to give LeBron his first championship. That was what was going on then, right? That was the narrative then. That was the move then. They were trying to give him his first championship. They didn't want him playing against the Spurs.
They gave him an easy one.
If everything's a conspiracy, it's hard to have like a genuine conversation.
They gave him an easy one. They
I
laid it out there for him. He was
act like everything's shady back
I just said that. I just said that.
So you heard what Gilbert Arenas had to say. Now I didn't message him before doing the show. Usually when we're talking about Gil, we usually do a show. I usually send him a message like, hey man, check out this clip. So he doesn't feel like, oh, I'm talking behind his back. So I'll probably shoot him a message about the show a little bit later today. But what Gilbert Arenas said was pretty surprising. It was pretty surprising because it basically said that, look, this is the way, this is like a storyline. This is the script, basically. Now, I'm not saying everything is scripted, but he was able to see things that were happening and understand, look, that's what's really taking place here. That's what's really taking place there. Now, here's what's interesting about this. During that sit down, they asked him to rank his top 3 players. And in his top 3, he had Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant, right? And they were kind of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about it. They were asking him, why do you have LeBron ranked so high? But Gilbert said on many occasions that I don't think LeBron is. Listen, Gilbert Arenas said that he doesn't believe LeBron is the GOAT. He has Jordan. But what he also said is what I think I know, and I think is what a lot of NBA players know, is that it's not close. He said it multiple times that he doesn't think it's close. I never thought it was close. Ever. Ever. Now, where Gil and I disagree is we both have the same favorite player, because my favorite player is Kobe Bryant. His favorite player is Kobe Bryant of all time. But instead, he has LeBron ranked ahead of Kobe, and I have Kobe ranked ahead of LeBron. And that was a major argument point in that show. I mean, it was a very, very interesting debate. I mean, you guys should go check it out. Yeah, it was people kind of going back and forth with each other. You know, it got not heated, but spirited at various moments. But what's surprising is he's basically saying that the LeBron's first championship was basically given to him by the NBA. Like, here, have it. Here, it's yours. Like, you can have it. You can have it. There you go. Right? And I don't know what LeBron fans will feel hearing this, but I know there's some LeBron fans that feel like, oh man, this guy's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I've personally said that, look, although LeBron is a great player to me, he's in my top 5. I do believe that this Michael Jordan and LeBron GOAT debate is fabricated. I think it's a media invention, and I think there's absolutely zero substance to it. Absolutely zero substance. And what I believe is that people arguing for LeBron being closer to Jordan are people that like LeBron, because there's no real sense in it. There's no real sense in it. Because, for instance, if you say longevity is an important thing, then you can't have Jordan ahead of LeBron, because LeBron has the longevity argument. But we all know that it was never about that. Longevity only became a thing when it came to LeBron. And, you know, to me, it was a very, very revealing kind of thing that Gilbert Arenas said. And I think you guys should go listen to what he had to say in its entirety, because it was a pretty interesting show. So I came across a sit down that Cam Newton had with Shannon Sharpe. And during their sit down, they talked about a whole bunch of things, dating and all of those different things. But then they got to a particular point where they were talking about Shannon Sharpe's departure from Undisputed and the fallout that he had with Skip Bayless. At the time, all of us covered that story extensively. We all kind of gave our 2 cents on the situation. But we really haven't heard Shannon Sharpe talk on it as much as he has other topics. So during their conversation, Cam Newton essentially asked Shannon Sharpe to basically go through what it was like, leaving Undisputed, and, that infamous exchange that he had with Skip Bayless on television, where Skip told him to put his glasses back on. If you remember, they were arguing about Tom Brady and all of that. And then Skip Bayless kind of took a below the belt shot at Shannon Sharpe. And then, and then from there, we're just pretty much downhill. Of course, they had the Damar Hamlin situation there. So when it came time for Shannon to respond, I actually thought that he took a very mature approach to his answer. And I think that some people out there probably would have wished he would have taken it in a different direction. But I definitely like the direction that Shannon Sharpe took it in terms of his answer, responding to the question that Cam Newton posed to him. So those really are the comments that we want to anchor in on today. So what we want to do now is want to play exactly what Shannon Sharpe had to say to Cam Newton when he was asked about the fallout between himself and Skip Bayless. I'm going to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to that there.
The situation with Skip, right? Mm-hmm. Was the frustration with Skip, or was the frustration with the network or the executives?
I think for me, I really appreciate Skip believing in me and bringing me there. Even when the network wanted him to hire a journalist, because I was really the first athlete to sit down and sit across from a journalist and debate topics.
Right.
People know that you can talk about football because obviously you played the game. Can he talk about basketball?
Right.
Can he talk about golf? Can he talk about baseball? Can he talk about social issues if they were to arise? So Skip believed that I could, and the opportunity presented itself, and I took full advantage of it. Maybe it was a combination of things. Maybe there's some things I could have done differently. Maybe I should have just had a conversation with Skip that before it even got to that point, maybe said something differently, but I don't know. It's really hard to say. I just think that that after 7 years and you with somebody, this is what I tell people about relationships, it's easier to grow apart than grow together. And maybe that was the 7 year, you have 17-year locusts that they come once every 17 years. Well, maybe this was a 7 years, this was all I was supposed to get out of that. Maybe this was the bridge that I was supposed to travel on for 7 years. And then after that, that bridge was gonna collapse and it was gonna force me to go do something else.
But even then, was that the straw that broke the camel back?
See, if somebody else had said what Skip said, I wouldn't have batted an eye. But we're supposed to be teammates.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's what hurt me more than anything. My teammate, that's what he thought of me. It's kind of like when somebody else says something like, nothing gets you more upset than when your boys hit
Or
you.
somebody who really, you said 4 names. I know one of them was Sterling Sharpe.
Yeah, like my homeboy, and I know, like, we and my homeboys, we joke a lot, but I know where not to go.
It's to a degree.
Yes, you can joke, but let's not go there. Let's not play in that area.
Right.
And so I was like, and at that point in time, now here's the guy that I had stood up for Skip. When guys come on and try to take shots at Skip, I was there, I stood up. Nah, bro, this is not your show. This is Skip and Shannon. This ain't you. You're not gonna take no shots. We're not gonna do that, so forth and so on. And in that moment, to think that because I said Tom Brady wasn't playing well, and he wasn't playing well. And I think that's one of the things that most people like about me, because I don't have a problem. If a guy's not playing well, Cam, he's just not playing well.
And it happens.
Yes, and this is not to take away anything what that person has already accomplished. But we're talking about now. We're not talking about, we'll evaluate his career once it's over, but we're talking about in the moment, and he wasn't playing well. So I was just disappointed how it handled. I thought it could have been handled better by management, but it was handled the way it was handled. I thank Fox for the opportunity. And the only thing that I get upset about, when I hear people say, Skip gave you, Skip made you. Now, had I not made it, what would y'all have said? They wouldn't have said Skip was the reason why I failed. So in other words, when I'm successful, you give him all the credit and give me none of it. So if I'd have failed, you'd have gave me all the blame and gave him none of it. So the thing, I guess Jay-Z coined the line, was, if he made me,
make another me.
Yeah.
So you heard what Shannon Sharpe's response was. Look, I actually liked and appreciated what Shannon Sharpe had to say. Now, I remember at the time when they had that exchange, people were pretty upset with Shannon Sharpe. I mean, with Skip Bayless in that moment. But then I also remember the time when Shannon Sharpe had that altercation, between himself and the Memphis Grizzlies players and John Morant's father. You guys remember the entire thing there, that they kind of had that back and forth. And I remember people at the time saying, why didn't you have this energy for Skip Bayless? As if to say, why didn't you go at Skip that way? I think we can all agree that if Shannon Sharpe reacted to Skip Bayless the way he conducted himself on that Laker court, it would have been a net negative for Shannon. I think if Shannon had done that, he would have never been able to get a job on television ever again. That would have been the end of it, because he wanted to respond to Skip disrespecting him in that moment. I think if Shannon had responded to Skip the way he did with the Memphis Grizzlies players, I think it would have done more damage to Shannon Sharpe than anybody else. Now, maybe some people in the public would have loved it. Yeah, Shannon stood up to Skip Bayless. He stood up to him. He didn't back down from him. But that's a short-sighted way to look at things. Because in the short term, yeah, Shannon would win. He defended himself. But in the long term, he loses. Because Shannon will never get a job on television. And Skip would have turned into the sympathy figure. Because although Skip Bayless took the below-the-belt shot, if Shannon Sharpe reacted to him with aggression, well, let's be for real. What points you going to get for getting aggressive with Skip Bayless? Shannon Sharpe is 6'2". God knows how many pounds he weighs. He's a very strong guy. Who you gonna feel good? We're supposed to be feeling good about that he came at Skip Bayless. Look how that's what we're supposed to be doing here. No, so you don't get any points for that. I liked his answer because he kept it real. Although some of us didn't like the way Skip treated Shannon in those moments, the fact is Shannon would not have had that job if Skip Bayless didn't vouch for him. That's the reality. And I like the fact that Shannon Sharpe kept it real. Now, has he gone on to do bigger and better things? Yes, but no one here with any sense is going to say that his time on Undisputed didn't propel him to where he is. I mean, that's a flat out lie, and we all know it. Because before that, we weren't talking about Shannon Sharpe the same way. Let's keep it funky. We were not. So I like his answer. I also liked his approach in that moment. And he also heard that a lot of sponsors came up to him and said, we really appreciate the way you responded. It was the mature thing to do. I remember when Will Smith went up on that stage and assaulted Chris Rock, because that's what it was. He assaulted him on live television, and people were like, not people. Some people were like, I'd have responded and this and this and this and this and that. And we understand that it's human nature to respond. But what Chris Rock displayed was something stronger than strength. What he displayed was restraint. And it takes a lot of emotional control to be able to gather your emotions in that moment and not react. Now, he may come off looking soft to the average man, but I doubt most people, I think 99% of men put in that situation would have failed. And what would have happened was they would have reacted to Chris Rock, and it would have turned out to be an entire brawl on television. And that would have been a national, that would have been a disgrace of epic. Imagine Chris Rock and Will Smith exchanging blows on the Oscar stage. So by Chris Rock refusing to respond with force, he was able to actually reduce the damage that would have been done had he responded physically to it. Because at that particular point, the headline would have been Chris Rock and Will Smith get into a fight on the Oscar. Just imagine a headline. So that's not smart, right? That's not smart. I'll leave with this quick story. Anthony Joshua is supposed to be fighting. I don't follow boxing, but I do know Anthony Joshua. And I know he's supposed to be fighting a fighter that I believe is younger than him. I don't know who the fighter's name is, right? I don't know who his name is. But he's supposed to be fighting a younger guy. And apparently what happened was they had a sit down on, was it HBO or something like that? I forgot why I saw the clip. And they were, the guy's name is Daniel Du Bois. I hope I pronounced his name right. And they're talking. Now, this is Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua could knock out the best of the best, right? Certainly beat up an average person. And they're kind of going back and forth. And Anthony Joshua was talking to him like, relax, bro. Relax, bro. Relax. Relax. Ultimately, he loses his cool. He was like, I'm gonna handle you right now. But what surprised me was the following. Here's Anthony Joshua, who's probably a better fighter than everybody watching this show right now. And if it was an average person, what would they been doing? Yo, I'm gonna F you up. Yo, blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna make you up. I'm gonna mess you up. Blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna mess you up, mess you up, mess you up. When in reality, in most of those cases, those fights can go either way if both parties aren't intimidated. And what I was surprised was his restraint and how calm he was, even though he was angry. And I was like, man, that's something to learn from. So to me, look, I think Shannon Sharpe came out of that situation looking the best. So as you guys know, free agency is in full swing. And a lot of moves are being made by the second. I'm actually following Adrian Wojnarowski's Instagram account, and moves are being made. Tobias Harris, there's been some movement with him. If I look at him, let me see, Tobias Harris now has joined the Detroit Pistons. Who else? We look at who else we got? Isaiah Hartenstein. He just signed a 3-year deal with Oklahoma City Thunder. I think that's a really good pickup for them. It gave him some depth at one of the 4 or 5 spots, and a lot of activity. You have Jalen Smith just signed a 3-year deal with Chicago Bulls. Tyrese Maxey signed a 5-year deal, principal, worth $204 million maximum contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. And of course, you have Paul George, who signed a $212 million 4-year max contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think they also got Kelly Oubre, which I think is really important, to stay with the Philadelphia 76ers. But I want to get into the Paul George thing, right? I want to get into that because really that lies at the heart of what we're discussing today. Back in 2020, when the Clippers got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard in that offseason, many of us, including myself, believed that the Clippers were going to win the NBA championship. And we had good reason. We had just finished watching Kawhi Leonard help the Toronto Raptors win their first NBA championship in the history of the country of Canada. Fresh off a Finals MVP, he now goes to the Clippers, who were already a playoff team prior to that, and then he brings along Paul George. So at that point, everyone thought that the Clippers were going to win the championship. A lot of people. And they played well. They got to the playoffs. They beat the Dallas Mavericks, I believe, in 7 games or 6 games in round 1. Then they get to the second round, and they blow a 3-1 lead. And Paul George was horrendous in that series. Kawhi Leonard was playing very good basketball, but what happened was in Game 7, both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard had bad games, and that you cannot have. They were horrendous, and they ended up blowing a 3-1 lead. So I want to show you guys a graphic, and this is a Bleacher Report graphic, and it chronicles how the PG and Kawhi Leonard era went. Let's go through. The first image, in 2020, they blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets in round 2. In 2021, Kawhi tears ACL, and they lost to the Suns in the Western Conference Finals. In 2022, Kawhi Leonard torn ACL, PG elbow injury, and missed the playoffs. In 2023, Kawhi knee sprain, PG knee sprain, lost to Suns in first round. 2024, Kawhi knee inflammation, lost to the Mavs in round 1. And what that last slide doesn't show is that Paul George wasn't even healthy because he got injured about 3 weeks before the playoffs even started. Look, there are a lot of moves that are taking place in free agency and a lot of pretty interesting things to say. As it goes with the Clippers, here are my thoughts. First of all, at the end of this season, playoffs, I said that they need to blow up this team. And I 100% agree with the decision the Clippers made to not, basically to find a slick way to get Paul George to leave, because they know he wanted that fourth year, and they said no, which means that they didn't want to keep the score together, regardless of what they had to say. And I think that was the best decision. Why? Because I think I had seen enough from this group. I had seen enough. I had seen enough to know that this core players wasn't going to work. So I also think that the compilation of Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, James Harden, I think they had too many players that needed the ball. And I think as a result, everybody suffered. I think there was a lot of deferring to each other. And I just think that doesn't work because they just had too many players, right? So I didn't like that. Number two, I didn't like the fact that there was no clear pecking order in their offense. I didn't like that. Seemed like an equal opportunity offense, but the players weren't equal. So that's another problem. So I like the fact that Paul George is gone because it removes a variable. Now, some people are saying that's crazy. Why would you say that? Paul George is an all-star, great two-way player. I get that, but it's just not worked out for the Clippers. That's the first part. They did get James Harden, but on 2 years. And I think he's going to retire with the Clippers. I think after that, he's not going to play anymore. He's on a 2-year deal, $70 million. Fine. So you have that. Then I made a post about Russell Westbrook. First thing, the Clippers re-signed Russell Westbrook. I think he picked up his option for $4 million. But we're also hearing word that he's going to go to the Denver Nuggets. And Denver lost a very important piece in Contavious Caldwell-Pope. That's a very big piece, so they need to find a way to fill that void. But I said that I think the Clippers should move off of Russell Westbrook. And some people are like, oh, you're a hypocrite and blah, blah, blah. Of course, LeBron fans found a way to bring in LeBron James. These people, they can't. I don't get, why y'all be coming to my, yo, leave me alone. Goddamn, leave me alone. But anyway, they found a way to bring it back to LeBron. LeBron fans are so annoying. Anyway, the vast majority of them, not all of them, but the vast majority, 90% of LeBron fans are annoying. So what happened? They're like, oh, here's why I want the Clippers to be done with Russell Westbrook. Did Russell Westbrook play better with the Clippers than he did with the Lakers? Absolutely. Absolutely he did. But it's not a perfect fit. Russell Westbrook, I personally believe, doesn't fit as well with the Clippers as they would need him to. Why? Because you give up a lot with Russell Westbrook on the floor. Yes, I think Russell Westbrook's biggest plus to the Clippers when he's on the floor is his offensive rebounding. That's what I believe it is. Because he plays with a lot of energy and his activity around the basket. Apart from that, there were too many minuses in my personal view. One, Russell Westbrook was not a good floor spacer. Number two, he would be turnover prone. Now, he has an opportunity. He usually finds a way to get it. After he turns over the ball, he finds a way to get a steal. But there's a clumsiness to his game that I feel like doesn't fit in with the Clippers anymore. Now, some people have said, but he's the voice of the team. Fine. If you can find a way to retain Russell Westbrook without him playing, fantastic. But I don't think at this current point, he's the player that they need. Now, people have mentioned Kawhi Leonard. Why don't they move off from Kawhi? I think they will. They already gave Kawhi Leonard a 3-year deal, which he's on right now. And I don't think they're going to give him a max contract moving forward. I don't know why they would. But as things currently stand, I don't see this group being a group that's going to be able to compete for championships anymore. Now we have to wait and see, but I don't think so. Right? Here's what I think, or here's what I like. If I'm looking at the roster, obviously you have the other pieces. But in terms of the stars, I like Kawhi. I like Harden. I like those two guys. And I'm not a fan of Westbrook, and I hope to get rid of him. And then let them figure it out from there. Some people talk about James Harden disappears in the playoffs. He does from time to time, but he's also durable. He plays a lot of games. And you're going to roll the dice on Kawhi Leonard's health, but that's exactly what you were doing with Paul George anyway. Now, I know they picked up the guy from the Mavericks. I forgot his name. They picked up. I saw it on Woj's post. I can't find it, but they picked him up. I know that. Yeah, they picked him up, but I can't forget. He's a slasher, two-way guy. He can hit threes from the corner and all of that. Let me see if I can get his name because I saw it not too long ago. I can't find his name, but I know they picked up somebody from the Mavs. I forgot the player's name. Or maybe I saw it a little bit yesterday. Yeah, saw it yesterday. But anyway, they picked him up. So to me, look, I think this era is over. I don't think the Clippers are going to win a championship unless something dramatic happens, which we'll have to wait and see.